Go Jackets.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. It's Monday, very early in the morning when I'm recording this, so excuse me if I don't look as wonderful as I normally do. But let's talk about this Ole Miss Georgia Tech game. Yeah, we take a pretty big L, 48-23, and that score can be a little deceiving. If you just look at it, you think that Ole Miss just blew us out. But that game, Ole Miss was sweating it for most of that game. They were able to pull away later in the fourth and just run their offense at will and do whatever they wanted with very little resistance. But it's not the same game as last year, I guess is what I'm saying. Now, I was at this game. Papa Rec and I drove down same day and came back. And I will say the Grove was a pretty cool place. It's a really good atmosphere. I commend Ole Miss for what they got going on there. I think Lane Kiffin, look, he's one of the best offensive minds in the country, and that definitely showed. So I'll probably cut away here to some footage of the game and some pictures. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, so let's. I got the stats pulled up here. So if you watched the live show last night, we're getting trolled a little bit. People saying Haynes King was no good, but Haynes King 307 yards, 2 touchdowns. Haynes King has top 10 stats in the country right now as far as quarterback is concerned. He was 28 of 41, so he did take a step back as far as completion percentages. Jackson Dart for Ole Miss was 10 of 18, 251 yards and a touchdown. And Jamal Haynes was held under 100 yards, 19 carries on 72 yards with a long of 15. But the story of this game was our defense really got exposed by a superior offense. First, I'll say, look, Ole Miss is a better team, obviously, than us right now. And Ole Miss is positioned to make a run in the West. I saw the line for Ole Miss Alabama is -7 for Alabama. So Alabama being favored by a touchdown against a very good offense with Ole Miss is a little curious to me. Honestly, if I was setting that line, I'd probably set it at -3 for Ole Miss. Alabama looked really bad offensively against South Florida last week. They're playing some of it during before the game started on the Jumbotron in Oxford. But yeah, our defense got exposed. There's a lot of deficiencies on this defense, and it starts with the defensive line. I went back, watched a good bit of the game, and even Brent Key has said this in previous press conferences that, man, our defensive line is really getting stood up. If you're playing defensive line and you're letting that offensive lineman just get under your pad level, then he can control you and he can determine where you're going and he can take you out of the play. And that's twofold. Not only are you not going to be able to pass rush very well, I mean, you can get your hands up and possibly knock a ball down. It hadn't happened, though. But especially for run plays, you can get the defensive lineman turn. And we saw that. I mean, looking at the stats, Jackson Dart was their leading rusher. And then it was Ulysses Bentley, the fourth, with 61 yards. Jackson Dart had 136 and 2 touchdowns. And that's what I imagine we're going to see. If I was an offensive coordinator, like if I was Wake's offensive coordinator, especially with the way they have this way of running, doing like zone read kind of running back plays you don't see anywhere else. I mean, I would just run on our defense. I would just run. Then we're going to have to stack the box and adjust, and they're going to throw over the top of us. And that's kind of the secondary issue, no pun intended, is our secondary got beat really bad on a few different plays, especially in that fourth quarter. Jackson Dart had time. He didn't necessarily have all day on some throws, and we're just being caught out of position in the secondary. So I was asked in the live show, like, well, what can we do to fix that? And it's not, it's not an easy answer. I mean, because it really seems to be a personnel issue up front. We can't get C.J. Jackson in here quick enough. We really need an edge rusher that can be disruptive, and we're not getting into the backfield. Like, for that entire game, we had 3 tackles for loss, which is awful. I mean, there's only 3 times we were able to produce a negative play on defense for Ole Miss. You're not going to win a lot of football games when there's only 3 negative plays for the other team. They're going to be able to stay on time, ahead of the sticks, and there's not going to be a lot of pressure on that offense because they're going to be in 3rd and short. Most of the time they're going to be 3rd and 3, which is high. Is going for any offense that's marginally good is pretty high percentage, right? So big problems on defense. In fact, our leading tackler was LaMiles Brooks. When your secondary, someone in your secondary is leading the team in tackles, that's a problem. And that's a big problem. And it hurts to say that was the case last time we played Ole Miss. I remember going home from that game in 2022. Joe Hamilton's on the radio, and they're like, oh, Clayton Powell-Lee's the leading tackler, man. That kid's really stepping up. And Joe Hamilton was like, well, hey, man, when your secondary's leading the team in tackles, that's a problem, And it is. Daquan Dowse was our second leading tackler. And then our third leading tackler was K.J. Wallace, another defensive back. So our top 3 tacklers, 2 of them were secondary players. That's got to change, and that's got to get fixed. Unfortunately, I think it's a personnel issue, and when it's a personnel issue, there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, you can't get someone in mid-season, right? So what can we do? We've got to work on getting our pad level lower on the defensive front and prevent that offensive line from standing us up. We've got to do that. That's something that's within our control, and we've got to get back to basics at linebacker and safety. Number 1 with tackling. Missed tackles is another issue. There were a few plays in that game where we had Dart or their wide receiver in the backfield and just whiffed on a tackle or didn't wrap up, and that's going to get you beat too. That contributes to only having 3 tackles for loss, because what happens, look, you have the right defensive play called and you get in position to make the right play, and then you bail the offense out by not wrapping up and making the tackle at the point of contact. Got to get better. Also at linebacker and secondary in general, we were out of position. Now, I will say this, all the credit in the world to Ole Miss's offense, the way that they run offense. There's a lot of motion and there's a lot of moving pieces. when we broke down film before the game, we saw that, right? They'll often motion a wide receiver, and it can go to him, the running back. It can be an RPO. And it can be easy to get caught out of position, and Ole Miss does a good job of getting your defense out of position. It'll be very I'll be looking forward to seeing what they're able to do against a pretty good defense that Alabama has. As far as special teams, we had a pretty bad day at special teams, and we still have some serious issues at special teams. So we have a field goal blocked, so now that's a red zone appearance, and I think we were inside the 15 and get a kick blocked. And I can see now the dichotomy with Bear and Stewart. Stewart's lacked accuracy this year, which has been surprising because he was so good last year. So we bring in Burr, however his name's spelled Birr, and he's got a ton of leg, and he seems to be more accurate, but he drives the ball out a lot lower when he kicks it, which gives the other team a much higher percentage of getting the block, which is what happened. I think they got a little bit of penetration too, and were able to get their hand on it. We talked about that before the game too. A lot of times whoever makes more special teams plays wins the ball game, which is what happened. Then we had the going for it or the fake punt that was we were on our own 35 or something. I don't even think we were at the 40. Or we might have been right at the 40. Don't convert and give them the ball. Now, this is my take on that, especially for a guy like Brent Key to make the decision to do that. When he makes the decision to go for it there, it makes me think that they saw something in film, something that Ole Miss was doing in their punt team that made them think that was almost a guaranteed play. They were bailing way too quick, and it was going to give us an opportunity to get a pass off. That being said, that was one of the worst holding no calls I've ever seen. Now, did it make a difference in the game at the end? No. If we would have converted there, we wouldn't have won anyways. But really bad holding no call, and ended up working out for Ole Miss. Now, there is a conversation to be had of if you are going to go for it on fourth, as good as Haynes King's has been, does it make more sense just to trot your offense out there? I kind of think so. I tend to think so. I think we're probably better served with putting the ball in Haynes King's hand and having him make a play for you. So special teams still much to be desired there. Now offensively, I think we're going to be okay. We're much improved. Even though he didn't have 100 yards, Jamal Haynes looked really good. Cooley looked really good, but I will say this. He's had like a fumble a game now. I think he fumbled this game. I don't know what happened, if he got the wind knocked out of him or he got his bell rung or something. I'm not sure. But even when I see him running with the ball, it seems like there could be some ball security issues there, and I get it when you have the athleticism of Cooley. You're trying to get all of your body in to making an explosive play, but you gotta. An explosive play is no good if it ends in a turnover. So we've definitely got to work on protecting the ball with him. Haynes King, we've already talked about, looked really good. Though I will say he was late on some throws. On the throw, there was one he missed where, and it's tough, where he avoids the sack, gets out of a bad situation, and he has Brett Seether wide open across the middle, and he was even looking in that direction. So I don't know how he didn't see him, but we missed an explosive play there. And on the throw to Eric Singleton Jr., where he basically has to play center fielder to catch it, should have been a touchdown. He was wide open, but yeah, underthrew him there because we didn't get the ball out on time. I mean, I don't know a quarterback that can throw it, 80 yards. So that's pretty nitpicky and minor, though. For the most part, he was very, very good in this game. Offensive line seems to be improving week over week. I know that Ole Miss doesn't have a lights-out defense, but I thought we blocked pretty well in that game. And I think Ole Miss adjusted pretty well to what we were doing offensively. The game, was 10-3 going into half, and I was thinking, we've got to convert these yards into points. We were outgaining Ole Miss going into the half, like by 30 yards or so. That's where special teams, comes into play and turning the ball over. But like I said, we gotta convert those yardage into points. And, kind of again where we don't really play a complete game. And this one, it's like in both of these games where we're playing Louisville and Ole Miss, we have a quarter where we just absolutely poop the bed. And also, it seems like if our defense kind of gets a stop and makes a play, we can't get anything rolling on offense in the next series, and vice versa. If we have a big explosive play on defense and get points on the board, then or on offense, then our defense gives up a big play in the next series. So, we got to do better at helping out the other side of the ball when they do their job, right? Now, I have seen a few people in my comment section, and more than a few people just on social media in general, saying that this team lacks heart and things like this. And here's my thing. You can say, hey, we're not fundamentally sound in some areas, and we've got to make plays and play better and put ourselves in a position to play better as a coaching staff, as athletes, whatever. Unless there's just something that's so blatantly obvious no other conclusion could be drawn, I would never question someone's heart, grit, or determination, will to win. Because how could you possibly know that? Like, do you exist inside that player's mind? And I think that's pretty disrespectful and crappy for a kid not to play well, and then you come out and say it's because he doesn't want to. Let me tell you something. If you're playing Division I sports, it's not a will to win, and that's also, I think, disrespectful to Ole Miss. Like, it wasn't that they came out and executed their game plan better. It's that Georgia Tech's players don't have heart. I mean, get out of here with that, man. I think that we didn't play well on defense, and there's problems on defense. But have a little respect for these kids that dedicate, 50 hours a week to this, and then another 30 hours a week to their schooling, so 80 hours a week. So to all you people that say these kids lack heart, do any of y'all work 80 hours a week? Have you ever worked 80 hours a week? Have you ever worked that hard at anything in your life? Probably not. Probably not. So spare me with questioning the motivations and heart of these kids. Okay? And do yourself a favor of not making yourself look so stupid and silly the next time. And if you want to unsubscribe over that, that's fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with criticizing a kid. These kids are in the public sphere, and they're making money at this. There's whatever. All right. So nothing wrong with criticizing a kid's play, but when you start criticizing his want to and his heart, puke, man. Come on now. So, I'm sorry. I kind of went off on a rant with that, but I just feel like that needed to be said. Now, there are some bright spots at wide receiver. Our leading, this Eric Singleton Jr. kid is going to be a very good player for Georgia Tech. 5 receptions for 97 yards. Had a touchdown. Should have had 2 touchdowns. That guy catches everything that comes in his vicinity. And I'm really happy to see Christian Leary with the second most receiving yards. He had 5 really good catches. He did a good job at finding space to get the ball thrown to him. He ran good routes. I don't think he had a single drop today. He might, or Saturday. He might have, but he had 5 receptions for 64 yards. I think if this team is, going to keep moving forward, like he's got to have more games like that, and we got to put him in position, play calling wise and strategy to get him in positions to do these kind of things. Now let me address the other thing. Well, first of all, we talked about it in the live show, but that chain malfunction stuff I don't get at all. I'm not saying there was tomfoolery going on. It seemed to always coincide when we were getting things going on offense. If you can't fix little links of chains with 4 timeouts for that and an entire half when you already have a backup pair of chains, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know. If you want, Georgia Tech will provide a mechanical engineer just for that. So we don't ever have to do that again. I've never seen a game that had technical timeouts, 4 or 5 technical timeouts like that. That was crazy. Now I feel like we need to address really a lot of Tech fans writing this team off. I've seen quite a bit of fire Andrew Thacker. I've seen some of comparing Brent Key to Jeff Collins. And then also what we've already talked about, the general, this team just doesn't want it. And to that I would say, for all you people saying that, are you where you want to be in your career? And if you say no, I'm just going to say you must not want it then. You just must not want it. Do you see how silly that is? I want to be successful on YouTube. I don't have, a 250,000 or 1 million subscribers. Do you think that's because I don't want it? For the fire Andrew Thacker stuff, I think you have to keep in mind losing Keon White, Ace Ely, and Charlie Thomas was huge. And that's clearly evident with the step back we've taken on defense, especially having Keon White, a guy that could get to the quarterback and be a run stopper in the middle for that defensive front. He was a second-round pick. He probably should have been a first-round pick. I don't think Andrew Thacker is the problem. Do you really think firing Andrew Thacker is going to solve the problems you have on defense? Or do you think recruiting and transfer portal, bringing players in that can execute the scheme Andrew Thacker wants to run, which one of those is more likely to fix the team? Now, you could say, well, we've got to recruit better, and that's absolutely fair. But keep in mind, we just went through 95% of our staff was turned over. I don't think Andrew Thacker forgot how to coach defense in one offseason. How quickly people forget, what he was able to do for us. And I thought he should have been fired when he was with Collins, and then Key comes in, and it's like, okay, this guy looks like he knows what he's doing. For all the people that think Brent Key is Jeff Collins, honestly, shame on you. How could you possibly think that? If Jeff Collins was still here, we'd be 0. We would have got beat by Louisville. We would have got blown out We would have gotten beaten even worse by Ole Miss, and we wouldn't have been we would have been competitive in only one game this year, and then he would be peeing down our legs, telling us he knows right where we're going. Brent Key's in his first year. Brent Key's a first-year head coach. He's still getting things figured out. There's a lot to learn with this, and I am part of the narrative that just kind of thought Key was going to come in and impose his will on people. Now that he hasn't done that, does that mean he's a bad coach? No. Okay, so who do you think Tech is going to bring in at DC or head coach that's going to be better than these that we can afford? Our schedule, these first 4 games are pretty darn tough. We don't have the luxury that some other teams do of having 3 or 4 nobodies to open up with, that we can work out the issues that we have on defense, or like some other teams, the issues that they might have on offense. Wake Forest, Ole Miss, and Louisville might compete for the conference, and that's something I was wrong about. They look like they could be a dark horse contender for the ACC, and they are a very talented team. Ole Miss is poised to compete for the West. So those are 2 teams that are going to be competing to make a conference championship berth. And then you have Wake, who's a very disciplined, well-coached, very effective at what they do team. I mean, these are 4 tough games, or 3 tough games, not counting South Carolina State. So should we just give up on the team then? I mean, to me, that's not what a fan is. I'm a Georgia Tech fan, and I'm going to call it like I see it, but I'm not going to question a heart of a kid or the competency of our coaches in 3 games. In 3 games. Now, I will say that this Wake Forest game we're approaching do or die for making a bowl. I think if we're going to make a bowl, Wake Forest is a must-win. Wake Forest is a team that talent-wise we match up with. The talent differential that will be very small, if not negligible. We probably have a better offense than them, and it's going to be rinse and repeat. What can our defense do against Ole Miss, or can our offense just dominate so that our defensive woes can be kind of swept under the rug a little bit? It's going to be a tough game. It's a tough road trip. Going to Oxford and then Winston-Salem. We'll get a little bit of a breather coming in against Bowling Green, and then have to play a really tough Miami team leading into a bye. But, like I said, I'm not writing this team off. We can still make a bowl. We can still be a good team. Okay? I'm going to support this team no matter what, right? And I'm going to be on here bringing you videos and breaking this down and supporting my Jackets. So let me know what you guys think about the game. Now, some announcements. I'm going to be breaking up the live show into 2 shows from now on because it is a little bit like schizophrenic and disjointed. I'm going to have one call-in show. I haven't decided when in the week that's going to be. And then one show dedicated to just talking about Georgia Tech and nothing else. Because I do think I'm irritating the diehard Tech fans that my channel is dedicated to. So that's coming up. We'll have one call-in show, one show dedicated to just Georgia Tech. And I'm also making a gaming channel. That's totally separate from everything else. Once I get that up and running, I'll let you guys know for anyone that might be interested in that. But again, let me know what you think. What do you think about this team? What are your expectations for this team? What were your takeaways from this game in Oxford? Let me know in the comments section. Y'all have a good one. I'll talk to you guys soon.